Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Mean Green Mania. I am your host, Jake Levine. I'm joined by Wyatt Schott, Connor Hibbett, and Jazzer Williams. We are outdoors today. The weather is beautiful in Denton, Texas. We've got some basketball to talk about as the Mean Green have a big game today against the East Carolina Pirates, which ended in an absolute miracle last time. But we've got some games to recap, don't we, guys?
We
It was
do.
a
We
definitely do.
very interesting past week for this basketball team, and let's talk about it. The loss here against UTSA at the Super Pit was just devastating, right? A quad 4 loss, worst team in the conference. Jazra, kind of want your thoughts first on this. What happened?
Honestly, I think that this is definitely a winnable game for UNT. I think what the biggest issue was, which was funny that we talked about it last show, is that they had a bad start last time, but this time we had a really good start.
Yeah.
But we didn't finish very well. We didn't come out in the second half. And what the issue was is we were in a scoring drought. We had an issue towards the end, a little bit towards the end of the first half, and then almost for a majority of the second half, we went on a really big scoring drought while UTSA did not, which allowed them to catch up and ultimately taking the lead.
Yeah, that scoring drought with 4 minutes and 4 seconds left on the clock. UNT had 59 points, and they end the game with 62 points. So you're only scoring 3 points in the last 4 minutes of a crucial conference game. Connor, Wyatt, thoughts?
Well, first of all, UTSA is better than their record. I want to point
It
out
is.
how many
Yep.
competitive losses they've had this year. I know Hank Dickinson pointed that out when we talked with him about the game. But also, UTSA just beat SMU on the road. Like, they're playing some really good basketball, so I would not want to play UTSA in the conference tournament either. So, and it's a rivalry. Anything can happen in rivalry games. So I don't want to like make it sound like it's all on us and how bad of a performance it was for us. Obviously, you don't want to lose to a quality of team like a UTSA at home. Um, our offense has been inconsistent at times this year, and really it's been inconsistent over the last few seasons. But in the past, we've had some players who made those clutch shots at the clutch moments to get us those 1, 2, and 3-point victories. We had awesome records. We won a ton of close games. It's not like we were that far away from losing a lot of these close games. And this year, we found ourselves on the losing end a lot of these close games. We just got to figure out a way to close. That's really bottom line. It doesn't matter if it's UTSA, SMU, you name the team. We just got to figure out a way to close.
Yeah, Wyatt.
Yeah, and it's a shame that this team can't close because they're built for close games. They're one of the
Right.
slowest paced teams in all of college basketball. So you'd think that closing games would be a strong suit of theirs,
Right.
but it just isn't.
Yeah.
This was a crushing conference loss. Losing to the bottom team in the American is just unacceptable. They went 5 for 21 from 3, just a terrible scoring drought. Jason Edwards didn't play the best. He was still our leading scorer, but he didn't play great. Reuben Jones, his first game back, he only had 3 points in a starting role, so not a great game from him. The lone bright spot was C.J. Nolan coming off the bench. His first game back, he was perfect from the field, super efficient. If we can get a spark from him that consistently, then this team has at least a chance, down the stretch here in March. But once again, this is a game where we're up by 9 at one point in the second half. Then
Yeah.
you talk about it, Jazz. We go in that scoring drought, and it's just really an unacceptable loss, especially here at home.
And
Right,
Reuben Jones was back, obviously, but you could also tell he was not even close to 100%.
Oh,
He
absolutely.
wasn't even 90%. Honestly, he didn't even look 80%. They were kind of – it's like they didn't want to re-aggravate his injury, so they were pulling him out at times. He wasn't going 100%
Right.
at those times. So I'm glad he's back, but it's still like one of those things you kind of want to monitor.
Well, and it seems like to me like they're kind of forcing him to get back into the game because they need him to be in games. They want him to be a player. But if he's not fully healthy, then what are you getting out of him?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. He had a horrible game.
It's almost
straight
like you're
up.
hurting the team more by
Exactly.
kind of like tiptoeing if you want to play him and start him and give him full minutes, or are you going to put him on a minutes restriction? Like, it was just kind of – it was hard for him to get in flow, and it hurt the team ultimately, I think.
And I don't think it was wrong of the coaches to try and, ease him back, because UTSA would have been a really good game to do that, to see, okay, where is he at? Because in reality, they're going to play some other teams that they might need him for fully. So if they wanted to ease him in, I think that was a good idea for UTSA, but obviously he's not ready yet.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
exactly what I think they're doing. I think they're trying to kind of get him slowly built for the conference tournament. Work him back into the lineup, get him used to those minutes again. Kind of like what you're saying, Jazzer. Slowly work his way back into the things, into to the heat of things like he once was, and then have him ready for conference tournament, because that's kind of where our season. I'm not saying that we're not playing the rest of this regular season, like full go.
Right.
What I'm saying is, I think right now we're playing kind of like putting all of our cards in one basket, or eggs in one basket for the conference tournament.
Yeah, I agree. And Ruben had a bounce back game. UNT went on the road, played against Tulane. Ruben had a great game. It was a great all-around game. UNT scored the most points out of any conference game this season, actually, down in New Orleans. And they won 80-76, 20 for 25 on free throws. UNT doubled Tulane's bench points. Let's talk about this. We're done talking about the loss. Let's talk about the win. That's a tough road win. I don't care that Tulane has not been that strong this season. A road win is a road win in this conference.
At Tulane.
Yeah, that's
about that
yep.
environment as well.
Right. Non-easy place to play. So let's talk about the win.
Yeah, no, this was the beginning of a 4-game stretch to close out the year that's super important for this North Texas team. You're finally healthy for it seems like forever. You're finally healthy. You get all your guys back. Aaron Scott went out there and played a really good game, 19 points on 14 shot attempts. I like how aggressive he was. We talked about Ruben Jones and how he bounced back. He had 16 points and a starting role once again. Jason Edwards didn't play a great game. He shot 4 for 12 from the field, but it didn't matter because we had other guys step up and we still win. CJ Nolan looked really good off the bench. Another efficient double-digit performance for him. Just great stuff and a good way to start this 4-game run to close out the year.
Aaron Scott was very aggressive, as we mentioned before the show. He took 14 shots, I believe. That's good for Aaron. What do you guys think?
First of all, Aaron Scott coming into the season was a guy that I was most looking forward to watching. I think this guy still has the highest ceiling on the team from an athletic standpoint. And so I've been a little bit disappointed by his inconsistent performances this season. But overall, from Scott from this game, this is what I want to see from Scott every single game. If he plays like this, I mean, we don't have to have Ruben Jones score 20. We don't have to have Edwards score 30. We don't have to have Nolan score 15 off the bench or whatever. If Scott performs like this, our ceiling as a team is just so much higher than what it's ever been this season, even when we had Ruben Jones and CJ Nolan fully healthy. So this is the performance that I've been looking for Scott for actually weeks now, and I'm glad we saw it.
He is a hinge player. The team's ceiling is raised whenever he performs at a high level.
I agree.
Yes.
Jazzer, what do you think?
I think that you make a great point, Wyatt and Connor. Aaron Scott is such an outstanding player when he plays well. I think that he has both offense and defense. He contributes so much to the team, and I feel like he's almost holding the team back just a tad bit whenever he's not scoring. Like, they need him to score. And he's doing well, but I think if they really put that aspect and they, get Aaron Scott on both ends of the court, like you said, the team's potential goes so much more.
Right. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about some Final Four, some March Madness predictions. It's going to be a lot of fun, so don't go anywhere.
What's wrong? Are you stuck in your paper?
Pretty much. I haven't written anything in like an hour.
Why don't you check out the Writing Center at UNT?
Well, how do I meet up with them?
All you have to do to make an appointment is visit the Writing Center's website and either call the number or email writingcenter@unt.edu. The appointment is 30 minutes long, and the trained tutors will be able to help with brainstorming, correcting grammar, ensuring clarity, and a wide range of services. They also do walk-in appointments.
That sounds awesome. I'm gonna check them out.
So, when's this paper due?
30 minutes?
For more information, visit the UNT Writing Center's website.
Yeah, it's 6 pages.
Hey Alex, this guy on the internet says he wants to give me money.
That sounds suspicious.
What do you mean?
Typically, strangers who promise you money on the internet have their own best interest in mind. They often use bounced checks, which will disappear shortly after depositing, but not before they've asked for some money in return.
So he doesn't really want to spoil me?
No.
Well, then what should I do?
The best way to handle it is to block and report the suspicious message, or even consult local law enforcement if you've already fallen victim.
So I guess we aren't going to Key West for spring break.
No.
I'm here to rescue you.
Oh, my prince.
Not so fast.
This story's going to be awesome.
Welcome back to Mean Green Mania. I'm your host, Jake Levine. I'm joined by Wyatt Schott, Connor Hibbett, Jazzer Williams, Hank Dickinson will be joining us later in this show. And we're going to talk about the Final Four because March is here. It is the best month of the year. And we couldn't be happier about it, right, guys?
Man, I'm smiling. I'm just so happy March
would
Madness is
tease
here.
it over March.
It's the best time of the year.
Does college basketball have the best postseason in all sports?
Yes, and
Oh,
it will
100%.
only work for college basketball.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. And let's talk about the Final Four. We have some predictions to share with you guys. I'm going to go first. My Final Four's got to include UConn, right? Because this team was just won the national championship. Dan Hurley's going to lead this team there again. I got Creighton next. I think Creighton is a Big East contender that people aren't thinking about because they're not really in the East. You know, they're in Omaha, Nebraska, I believe. So people don't really think about them when you throw them in with St. John's and Seton Hall, teams like that. I think they can get there. They have some real quality wins this season, and they beat the number 1 team in the country, UConn.
Yep.
Kansas. Now, I made this Kansas prediction about a week ago. I'm not going to lie to y'all. It's definitely still possible. Bill Self is still obviously capable of taking this team there because they won a national championship within the last few years. So they can get there. That could still pan out. My last one is going to shock everybody. I think the Texas Tech Red Raiders can get there because they are a team that can beat any team. They can also lose to any team, right? They're a team kind of like Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic got to the Final Four last year, right? They have a great head coach as Florida Atlantic. So is Texas Tech, Grant McCaslin. We know him very well. And so I think this team, you wouldn't want to play him in March, no matter what team it is. Any team that runs it in Texas Tech is going to be scared to play them. And so that's the kind of team that does get to the Final Four. It's kind of like Florida Atlantic last year. Wyatt, I want your Final Four predictions.
I'm going to agree with you on UConn. I got them also. I mean, how can you not? They're defending national champions.
Have to.
They've dominated the Big East all year, and the Big East is a conference that's hard to dominate. There's just so many quality teams, and it's almost impossible to win on the road consistently in the Big East. Tristan Noon is their leading scorer, but they got 5 guys that are averaging over 11 points per game. Donovan Clingan is a 7'2" defensive anchor. They're top 5 in offensive efficiency, top 20 in defensive. They're just a solid team all around. I expect them to be back. The next team I got is Houston. This is the number 1 defensive team in all of college basketball. They might go down as one of the best defensive teams statistically in the history of college basketball. The only thing that concerns me is that their offense is very slow, one of the slowest paced teams in all of college basketball. But they make up for that with their defense to offense. They force so many turnovers, and they score so many points off of turnovers.
And offensive rebounds.
And offensive rebounds. They just work. They just work so hard, and it's hard to stop them because they work so hard. The next team that I got is Iowa State.
Woo!
This is like Houston, but with an offense with a pulse. They're the number 2 defense in the entire country, but they're top 100 in offensive efficiency. I really like them. Keyshawn Gilbert and Taymon Lipsey are their best players. They're a really well-coached team. I'm a big fan of them, but the thing that could stop them is a really good shooting team. You'll see in the regular season they lost to BYU by 17 points.
Yeah.
It's because BYU is one of the best three-point shooting teams in the entire country. And then last but not least, I got North Carolina. I think this is a really slept-on team. They're really slept on defensively. They're 7th in the entire country in defensive rating, and they have some scores on offense. R.J. Davis has been there for what feels like forever, along with Armando Bacot. And then they got some young guys, and Elliot Cadeau. He's a true freshman point guard that's really run the offense super efficiently. But yeah, that's my Final Four right there.
I kind of like that pick with Iowa State because their resume is unreal.
It's outstanding.
It's unreal. They have one of the best resumes in the country. I think they're ranked 8th right now.
Yeah.
Connor, go for it.
I like that Iowa State pick too. Actually, I don't have it, but I mean, I could see it. I'm gonna go with the Big 12 team as well with Houston. I just trust them. To me, it's like one of these years they're finally going to win a national championship. I don't know if it's going to be this year. I'm not making a national champion pick right now, just picking the Final Four. But it just feels like this could be the year Houston finally gets to the Final Four. UConn for me, they're defending national champion. It's going to be hard to pick against them at this point. It's either UConn or you can't. Right now, it's UConn for me. And then the next team I'm going to do a similar kind of a pun there. Purdue. I'm going to pick Purdue. I know everyone's going to be fading Purdue in March Madness. You guys remember the last time a 1 seed lost to a 16 seed? Virginia. The next year, they won it all.
That's a very good point, actually.
So I'm going to pick Purdue. I don't think they're going to be Purdue this year. I think they'll be Purdue. So that's one of my Purduings for the show. And then I'm going to go with Tennessee. This is a team that's playing very well here down the stretch. They just won at Alabama, which is quietly, well, not quietly, but it's one of the best road wins in college basketball this year. And that's what I look for teams late in the season. Are they a complete team? Are they playing well? Not just at home, not just getting their home wins. Are they winning on the road too? Tennessee is really good offensively, really good defensively. They have one of the best players in college basketball. You need your go-to players down the stretch in the tournament. They've got a go-to player, one of the probably top 2 or 3 go-to players in the country. This team has the total package to me. So, and I like Rick Barnes as a head coach.
me too.
I thought he had it. I thought he had what it took to do really good things at Texas. He's done really good things at Tennessee. This is his best team in probably 5 years at Tennessee. I think they've got a shot to win it all this year.
They're in contention every year. Jasper, who you got?
So, me and Connor's picks are a little bit similar. The only thing I will say is I do not have UConn in my list. Now, I know it's unpopular amongst my crew, but I do have Purdue. Obviously, Purdue, I think that they are a really good team. When it comes into March Madness, despite last year, I think that they're very built, they're complete, they are ready for this tournament despite all of the negative talk around March Madness and, you know, what they're notorious for. I have Houston. I love Houston. I love this team. I love them offensively, even though they are slow. I do like that their offense, but they have great players that step up in clutch moments. How many times have y'all heard about Jamal Shed and what he has done this season on back-to-back games?
He had a game winner last night, too.
Yeah.
Against Oklahoma, at Oklahoma.
Yes,
Huge
he
road
did.
win.
That is also a huge win. I think that's a great win. And also, I think that Houston is ready for this defense. I love defensive teams. This team can stand in March Madness against teams that are coming with power on the offensive end. I have Tennessee, one of the best scorers in the country on Tennessee. I think that they are also another complete team, and I think that they'll go very far when it comes to March Madness as well. I think that they're ready for this. And I have Arizona. I love Arizona this year. I think that they're also another great team that's, I wouldn't say that they're slept on, but I think that they're left out of the conversation a little bit too much, and I think that they should be in there. I will say, I was going to put UConn over Arizona, and I'm a little bit, it was hard to pick between them because Purdue, Houston, Purdue, Houston, UConn, and Arizona are currently top 4 in KenPom. So, interesting to see how that plays out. But I think that Arizona is a really good team, and I think that they will go far when it comes to March Madness.
All right, so Connor and Jazra both had Tennessee. The one problem I have with Tennessee is kind of history. They seem to be like this every year, and then in March Madness they'll lose in the Sweet 16 or whatever.
I'll give you that.
Part of that reason is because of injuries. They've had like guards go down in the tournament.
I just don't think Rick Barnes is that guy.
I think they've lacked a true go-to scorer down the stretch. I mean, when is the last time Tennessee's had a go-to guy?
Have one.
Grant
And
Williams.
now they have one.
Probably
Don't
Grant
pin it.
Williams,
Don't
5
pin it.
years.
Stud.
Yeah, he is. I just compare Rick Barnes to Jim Larinaga a lot in my head, and they kind of do the same thing with their teams all the time. But let's run through these bubble teams that we've got. I know we want to talk about them. Mine is Syracuse, because Syracuse always is a team you don't want to play in March Madness. The Cuse is not a team you want to play, straight up. They have the win against North Carolina. I know it was at home, but it's North Carolina. Like, they can beat any team, and they can also lose to any team. That's what I talked about earlier with Texas Tech. Who's yours, Wyatt?
Yeah, I got Providence, another Big East team. This has been a season of up and downs for them. They start the year 11-2, then they lose 6 of 9, and then they win 3 straight, and now they lose 3 straight. This is a team that's also been crippled by injuries. Bryce Hopkins tears his ACL. He was their second best player, and Devin Carter's really carried the load for this team. He leads the team in points, rebounds, assists, and steals. He does it all for them. They just suffered a really bad loss to Villanova at home last night, and that hurts their bubble chances. Now they got to go to Georgetown and then play UConn. If you can somehow win both of those games, I think you solidify yourself in the tournament. But if not, then they got to make a deep run into the Big East tournament.
Connor, who's your bubble team?
The 2 teams that I had for my bubble watch did not perform well this past weekend at all. New Mexico and Wake Forest. Yikes. I still think Wake Forest is a really good team. I don't know what's happened to New Mexico here recently. Yeah. They were the team that I was most looking forward to coming into the season. I know you're going to be talking about New Mexico here shortly for a different reason.
Yeah, nice little quad 4 loss to Air Force.
Yeah, they were just trying to make Air Force feel better about themselves, pick up a quality conference win. Air Force hadn't had any. They're just trying to make them feel good at the end of the season. New Mexico still has the highest ceiling of all teams in the Mountain West, I feel. Very high variance team, but that's kind of what you're looking for these bubble teams. A team with the high ceiling, that's New Mexico. I still think they have some of the best guard play in the Mountain West. If they were to make the NCAA tournament, I think this team can make not a special run, but I think they could be a sneaky quality team to maybe spring a couple upsets. And then Wake Forest, as I mentioned on the show last week, they are one of the most unfortunate teams in the country. This team has a high ceiling. If they get into the tournament, they can make a run.
Jazra, who are you looking out for?
My team was also Wake Forest. I love what they did last week before when we talked about them on the show. They have a really good big that matches up very well with a lot of bigs across the country. And I think that he's not talked about enough. Hunter, he's a great big for them. I think that they have all the components to be a good team. And then they just don't.
I know.
It's
They're
so
inconsistent. They're just too
frustrating.
inconsistent.
Yes, they're inconsistent. They have all of the chess pieces to win the game, and then they just don't. Like you said, they're one of the most unfortunate teams in the country. You look at this team and their roster and the stats that they have, and they're solid, and then they just don't win. So I would love to see Wake Forest make it into March. I
agree. Let's run through these real quick, overrated, underrated teams. My underrated team is Seton Hall, and my overrated team is New Mexico. I can't stand the quad 4 losses, New Mexico. No explanation. Go for it.
My overrated team is Kansas. They've lost 5 of their last 7. Kevin McCullough is down with a knee injury. We don't know if he's coming back. And then my favorite team in all of college basketball, my underrated team, is Grand Canyon University. Tyan Grant Foster. Remember the name. He is a Kansas transfer. He's averaging over 20 points per game. He's one of my favorites in the entire country.
Connor, no explanation. Go.
Okay, overrated, Wisconsin, South Carolina, Ole Miss. If they make the tournament, they're all going to lose in the first round. And then underrated, Creighton and Florida.
Okay, I love Creighton pick. Jazra.
Overrated, I have Virginia. Love their offense, can't play defense. Underrated, I have BYU, one of the best three-point shooting in the country, and they have great offense. They win against really big teams.
I love that BYU pick. When we come back, we're going to talk about the American Conference Tournament. It is coming up very soon here in Fort Worth, so don't go anywhere.
Why should you join Talons?
We are very welcoming to people who may be a little bit hesitant. There's people currently right now in our organization who are in leadership positions who were hesitant before to join, and they found out that they just love the organization and wanted to be a bigger part of it. They post about the football games, everything they're doing, all their events that they host.
What's the best part about Talons?
I would say meeting new people, because the university, while it's a kind of small campus in terms of like physical land, there's a ton of people here. And so getting to meet all these people who have so much school spirit and love for this university and want to spread that to other people, it's kind of like a little miniature family that we're in.
There's no harm in wanting to have fun while in college, but it's easy to lose track of how much you've had. Apps like Drink Control and Alkadroid can help keep track of your consumption and blood alcohol levels. If you or someone else does drink too much, the signs of alcohol poisoning are as follows: pale skin, vomiting, confusion, low body temperatures, irregular breathing, blacking out, and is hard to wake up or cannot be woken up.
Dude, are you okay? Hey, what's wrong? Wake up.
It's an exciting time of year, but it's important to be responsible. If you suspect someone is suffering from alcohol poisoning, get help immediately. You will not get in trouble for seeking help if you are underage. For more info and resources, go to UNT's Division of Student Affairs.
Did you know you have access to video equipment like DVDs, video games, and cameras? That's right, you do. Come on down to Chilton Library and fulfill your media dream. Located on the bottom floor next to the student sculpture. Hope to see you there soon.
Hey girl, you know you look good. I like the way you move and groove. I'm not sure.
Back to Mean Green Mania. We're live at the Super Pit. I'm your host, Jake Levine. I've got Wyatt Schott, Connor Hibbett, Jazza Williams with me. We're going to talk about the AAC Conference Tournament. It's coming up. Guys, it is going to be just an absolute dogfight down at Dickies Arena in Fort Worth. So we've got some bold takes. We've got some underrated, overrated teams. But I just want to over you real quick. Like, Wyatt, what do you got?
It's going to be such an interesting tournament. I really don't know how much separation there is from the top team to the bottom team, honestly, because you guys play really good basketball.
That's true.
Yeah. There's not a whole lot of separation. I think FAU is just a really solid team that you can't count out just because of their postseason history. But I'm super excited for this tournament, man. It's going to be so competitive.
Connor?
I don't know what to expect in this tournament, because when you look at the teams who have like the most talent, if you were to look at like the power ratings, those teams are like in the middle of the standings, have been in the middle of the standings most of the season, and then the teams at the top of the standings, they've kind of like maxed out. Like you look at them, it's like you give them credit for what they've accomplished this season, but it's like if you were to repeat the season, would teams like South Florida, UAB, and Charlotte still be at the top of the standings? Like, is this sustainable, like what they've done? Again, give them all the credit in the world, but you've wondered if they've kind of overachieved. And so I don't know what to expect because the teams who have underachieved, I think, have the highest ceilings in the conference.
I agree.
So I don't know what to expect for the tournament.
Jazzer, any expectations?
I truly think that we are about to have a mini March Madness in this American Conference because we have an interesting thing here, which I know that Jake is going to talk about. We have a three-way tie going on, and like Wyatt said, the best team in the conference, I think, could have a game with the worst team in the conference.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think all the games that are going to be played in this tournament are going to be interesting. Jake, do you want to go into what our little situation is for UNT?
We were talking about this before the show, actually. It's not on our script or anything, but UNT still mathematically has a chance to make the top 4 of this conference. First up, they got to win out. They have to win all 3 of their games. That's not going to be easy. And then I believe UAB has to lose to Memphis and SMU. And I believe if those things happen, North Texas can make the top 4 because they have the tiebreaker over Memphis. I'm not sure where it stands with SMU. But, yeah, it's still going to be chaos, and we thought this team is way out of it, but apparently they're not.
Yeah, and let's we can preface that making the top 4 is a huge deal because you get the double bye.
Right, that's why we're talking about it. Right, you play one less game, and when you're playing every game back to back to back to back, that's a huge deal, actually.
Absolutely.
But let's talk about our overrated and underrated teams. We came into this with some thoughts, and my overrated team is South Florida, and I know they beat Charlotte on the road last night. That's a really good win, actually. I just don't believe in them. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't think that they're the team to win these big games, but they've won big games all year. I just don't know. I just don't think I believe that they can actually take it all the way. I think if they play FAU a game again in the neutral site in Dickies Arena, they'll probably lose that. But my underrated team is the University of North Texas Mean Green.
Why not?
And because this team can beat anybody, they can lose to anybody. We have talked about it for the last half hour about how these teams that are so hot and cold, they can play anybody they want, but they can also lose to anybody. That's not a team you want to run into in a conference tournament or a March Madness. That's why they're my underrated team. I think North Texas is either losing their first game or they're winning the whole thing. No in between.
Yeah, no, that's fair. My overrated team is also South Florida. Let me preface it with this. South Florida is not a bad team. You don't just accidentally go 22-5.
Right.
Like, you don't just fall into that.
Right.
Now, however, I don't know if they have what it takes to make a run in the AAC tournament. Ken Palm won't agree with me right now. They're 89th in Ken Palm, which is actually below North Texas.
Yep.
Which is just so weird to say out loud. And
ranked in the top 25.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
you mentioned this, that South Florida might finish the year ranked in the top 25 and not even make the March Madness bracket. Like they might not even make the postseason. They have 3 quad 4 losses and 2 quad 2 losses. They've only played 1 quad 1 game, and it was a game on the road at Memphis, I believe, and they won by 1 point. I just don't know how much of this is duplicable. For my underrated team, I've got to go Florida Atlantic. Like you said, Connor, some of the best teams in this conference are in the middle of the standings.
Yeah.
Record-wise, but I think FSU is just a team built for March.
Yep.
Their nucleus all comes back from that that Final Four run that they had last year. I just believe in them. I think that they are just built for March. That's what this team is made for, and they return so much.
Yeah, I think they're kind of like Memphis. Like, when they're on, they are on.
Yeah.
You don't want to play against them.
They are one of the best teams in the country when they are hot.
Right.
And when they're on, there's not many teams that I would pick over them if they're on all cylinders.
Talking about the inconsistencies, like with FAU, and then Jake, you mentioned high variance teams, those teams that are hot and cold, like every other game. Sometimes I wonder with those teams, especially like if they have like a lot returning, they already know what they're made out of. You wonder if they really care each individual game. And
I agree.
Sometimes, like, their fan bases will make that excuse like, oh, our team just didn't care. Sometimes I actually do believe that in some cases.
Yeah, just sleepwalking through the
Yeah.
AAC game. Like, we just went to the Final Four.
Memphis here. They just sleepwalked through this game. We had 20 wide open threes.
Yeah. So there's just sometimes like those opponents that already know what they're made out of. It's like USF. They did not know what they were made out of coming into the season. They kind of have like that nothing to lose attitude. And so what do? They're overachieving right now. That's why I don't trust overachievers in March a lot. That's why overachievers oftentimes lose in March. That's why I talked about the previous block with Wisconsin, South Carolina, and Ole Miss, teams that have overachieved this year, especially at the beginning of the season. So that's why my overrated team, I could have gone with South Florida, but I'm going to switch it up a little bit and go with UAB. This is a team that had much lower expectations, losing a lot of their production from last season. And there was a little bit of some changes in the administration, athletic department at UAB with this new fiscal year, the past several months. This is just not a team that I would trust down the stretch. I know they've performed pretty well this year, but if you look at the metrics, the luck metrics in college basketball, they're in the top 10 right now in luck. And then you look at South Florida, the top 25 in luck. I don't trust those teams down the stretch. Again, I don't trust overachievers in March. Then you talk about the underrated teams. Why not us? We're one of the unluckiest teams in college basketball. We're much better than our record, and if we're going to be getting healthier by the time conference tournament rolls around, why not pick us? We've got a kind of style of basketball that travels well. Defense first, offense second, but we're going to be playing better as a team, I would think, when guys come back into the lineup, obviously, again, with getting healthier. I think we're a team to watch out for in conference.
Not to mention there'll be a ton of UNT fans down there in Fort Worth. We're the closest
That's right.
college to the place. Jazzer, go for it.
So I'm going to go with my overrated team. I'm going to have to go opposite of Wyatt. I'm going FAU, and the reason why, and you even touched on this a little bit, is that their inconsistency. FAU, I'm going to go to the bank on inconsistent teams. I do not like the inconsistency that FAU has. When they're hot, and you don't want to touch them at all. You do not want to be on the same court with them. But when they're not, they're not. And I'm going to go with that. March, yes, they had a fairy tale of a season last year, but I don't think that they're going to make that happen again. I'm going to go with my underrated team. I'm going to go with North Texas as well. Why not? I know, like you said, why not? But all of us, we're not picking UNT just because we go to UNT. But UNT really has the components to be this good team in March. They have a little bit of injury going on, and I think that Ruben's going to be fine by the time we get there. I think that this tournament could really be dominated, and UNT could be one of those big teams in that.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, this is something that we touched on, I believe, 2 shows ago. The impact that playing this conference tournament close to home will have for UNT. And also for SMU. I think SMU could be considered an underrated team as well. These teams don't have to travel. They might be able to sleep in their own beds at night, right? And I think that does a lot because a team like Florida Atlantic is going to have to fly here, stay in the hotels, play in a place they've never played in before. UNT's used to this environment, you know? And UNT's a good road team. They're a good neutral site team. They put up good games in Charleston in that tournament. I don't see why we can't win some games.
A lot of times road games are difficult for teams, not just because of the environment that the road team poses, but it's also because there are schedule changes. And our schedule's not going to be changing as much. So that psychological aspect is not going to have as much of an impact on us as it would on some other teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a big deal in conference tournaments.
I don't think it can be overstated, though, us getting healthy before conference tournament season and March Madness. Getting healthy is just so big right now. This whole season was kind of derailed by injuries to Reuben Jones and CJ Nolan and stuff. It was just little things that I think just threw us off, but getting these guys back at the right time, it's going to be big for us.
I truly think that, like what you said, you know, you don't like the overachiever in March, and I think you make a great point. UNT has so much motivation to be like, let's do this and fight, because they were projected to do very well in this tournament, or in this conference, and they didn't end up the best. But now, once they're slowly starting to see, like, okay, we can do this. Also pulling out Jason Edwards, becoming a great scorer for North Texas. They have all the motivation to be like, why not? Let's go do this and win this tournament. They have so much fire behind them.
Absolutely. It's going to be so exciting to watch this tournament down in Fort Worth. Make sure you guys try to get there. When we come back, we're going to preview today's game. We're going to have the voice of the Mean Green, Hank Dickinson, on this table with us, so don't go anywhere.
The do's and don'ts of the Pole Rec Center. See that man over there? Please do not hog weights. Instead, do this. Another important part is having an attentive spotter. See, here is an example of a non-attentive spotter. Instead, do this. Now we head to the track, which should be pretty easy, just it's important to pay attention to the way the track goes. Remember to wipe down the equipment after you're done using it. The towels are provided by the gym, so it's pretty easy to wipe down the equipment when you are done. Thank you. for using the Pole Recreation Center.
Ugh, a 20-minute walk? I don't want to do this right now.
Don't worry, you can just use Transit.
Transit? What's that?
Transit is a mobile app that provides real-time tracking to connect buses, UNT shuttles, and even A trains. Simply download the app, then tap on the search bar and type where you want to go. In a matter of seconds, you get results for all available routes. And the best part of it is, it's completely free for UNT students. What are you doing?
I'm downloading it right now.
Download Transit today and remember, make life better without a car.
Welcome back to Mean Green Mania. I'm your host, Jake Levine. I'm joined by Wyatt Schott, Connor Hibbett, Jazzer Williams, and the voice of the Mean Green, Hank Dickinson. We're going to talk about this game we got going on today. East Carolina Pirates coming in from Greenville, North Carolina to play North Texas Mean Green. Last time these two teams met, it was an unreal game with an unreal ending. Sports Center top 10 play with Robert Allen going all Stephon Diggs on him. So we're probably going to have a good game on our hands again today. Let's talk about it. Hank, I want your thoughts first because you are the expert on this team. Do you have any expectations today?
Another tight game. You know, you look back at the first matchup, that game could have featured another highlight play because Ezra Azar got a shot off at the buzzer that barely missed. But it was a phenomenal ending because Aaron Scott, without any timeouts, knew exactly what he needed to do and threw a beautiful touchdown pass basically to Robert Allen, and then Allen scores with like 1.1 seconds left, but Asar actually got a good shot off. So it was a great matchup. We're a different looking team right now. You know, there was no Reuben Jones in that game. Bugs was hurt in that game. So this is the team that we thought North Texas was going to be, and I think this is an important game to continue to get momentum as you look ahead to Fort Worth. And you guys were talking about, you know, the advantage North Texas has is now you've got everybody, and you are playing very close to home. So when you get to Fort Worth, I mean, if you could get the double bye, which mathematically is still out there, it would be huge. But to get a bye is going to be important. But I like the fact that, you know, you're finally playing with Aaron Scott and Reuben Jones on the floor at the same time. Prior to the last two games, they'd only played 15 minutes together in league play. So we're a different-looking team.
Yeah, absolutely, and we were talking a lot about that mathematical chance that UNT still has to get that top 4 slot. But let's talk about what this game means for the rest of the season, you guys. You know, this is going to be a close one. We proved that we can lose to UTSA at home. We can lose to anybody, anywhere at this point. How do you see things going today?
Yeah, I'm excited for this game just because it's the second game in the 4-game stretch that I talked about in the last show of Tulane, East Carolina, FAU, and Rice. These are the games that you really need to close out the season strong to get some momentum going into March. And I think that this is another chance for us to add on to that. It's the third game back, with Reuben. It's his third game. I'm excited for him to stay healthy and to just get things going again. I think that this is a chance for North Texas to really solidify themselves as a new team with all their guys back Hank, I want to ask you, though, who are some guys that we need to look out for with East Carolina?
R.J. Felton is a really dynamic guard. He's going to score, but he's also going to rebound. For a guard, he's excellent on the offensive glass. And I think when you look at this team between Johnson and Felton, they can hurt you on the offensive glass. They also like to get out and run. They're going to get their points and run out. So you got to take care of the basketball. I think if you're going to play them smart, you got to shut down SR on the inside, but you got to really look for back taps and different kind of things to get the ball going in transition. And I think that's why having a guy like Ruben back and now playing healthy, he takes care of the basketball. So minimize mistakes, don't give them easy baskets, and try to put the pressure on them to create in the offense rather than get, transition points.
Yeah. Jazra, what are you looking out for today with this game?
I think you make a great point about the transition offense. That's something that UNT is not used to. We are a slow-paced offense, as we've said multiple times on this show, and I think that limiting their rebounds on especially the perimeter. They cannot give up perimeter rebounds, allowing guards to get rebounds. The bigs they're gonna board. That's fine. But we need to limit the rebounds. I think that takes away also the second chance points that will also kill North Texas in the stretch. I think that what are your predictions as far as stats-wise when it comes to the inside of the paint?
Well, a lot of it depends on how this game is called and how Aaron Scott can be physical without fouling. So the last game, phenomenal. He picked up one foul. It was in the second half, and he was having one of his best games. But he's been averaging better than 3 fouls a game in league play. So I don't always pin it on the officials, but if they're going to call it tight, then Aaron's got to really play within himself. Because when he's out of the game, and UTSA is a great example, he played less than 17 minutes in that game. And against a team with length, you need him in there. And you look, UTSA took advantage of that against us, and that was part of why that game was an upset. But Aaron staying relatively foul-free. He's going to commit some fouls. He plays way too hard not to commit fouls, but the silly ones on the perimeter where he doesn't need to be, the obvious ones in front of an official, I think if he can play within himself again like he did the other night, then North Texas is really in an advantageous spot with him on the floor.
Speaking of Aaron Scott, you talk about him defensively, but I want to talk about him offensively. Last game he took 14 shots. It was the most aggressive I've seen him since the beginning of the year. How important is it for him to be aggressive in this offense?
I think they want him to take a lot more shots. The mid-range is really a nice shot, and it's not always seen in the college game. But he can hit it around the elbow and inside. He also 6 assists the other night.
Yeah.
He had really one of his most complete games, and I think it's just that confidence factor with Ruben out there with him. I mean, these guys have been the 2 most experienced players during this run of success. From Grant McCaslin to Ross Hodge, the 2 guys you look at are those 2. So when they're out there together and he's staying foul-free, much different looking team.
Yeah.
And do you think if Aaron were to play like this moving forward, and maybe not like to that degree, but pretty much better than what he's performed during the middle of the season, and with Ruben Jones coming back from injury, C.J. Nolan as well, do you think this team has a pretty high ceiling moving forward?
I think they've got the biggest ceiling of any team in the league because we look so different now to what most of the teams have experienced. They just haven't seen us with this full complement of players, and Coach has said it. We can get better, have an opportunity to get better than most teams can this time of year because of what we now look like. And we weathered the storm. We beat teams we should beat, even with players out. UTSA would be the lone upset in all of that, but we're competing at a very high level in this league.
Absolutely, yeah. North Texas has been proven that they can beat anybody, they can lose to anybody. We talked about this earlier. It's not a team you want to play in the conference tournament. As far as this game, let's do score predictions real fast. I'm going to go with a good game. I think we're going to see another good game. I think it's going to be similar to the last game. I'm going to go 65-63. UNT takes the win in a very close game. Comes down to the last minute.
Yeah, this was a low-scoring game last time. 60-59 was the final score.
Yep.
I'll go with another low-scoring game. Slightly higher. I'm going to go 66 for North Texas and 60 for ECU.
Connor?
Let's go with 65-60. Mean Green get the dub.
I'm going to go with 64-59 Mean Green.
62-55. Now, East Carolina has been not scoring points during their 2-game losing streak. They're going to try to come out and have some fire early, but I think Mean Green defense will clamp down.
Right. We've got a great game on our hands today. Make sure to get to the Super Pit or watch it on ESPN+. Tip-off is going to be at 2 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining us today. On behalf of my fellow crew here, go Mean Green. Let's get a W today.